जिसमें आपके भारत का परिचय, आपका दुबई का परिचय, आपका इंटरपोल का परिचय, और आपका दूसरी जगह पे क्या क्या आपने काम किया, कैसे किया, क्या एक्सपीरियंस रहे, जियो लोकेशन में आपने क्या काम किया, आपने जियो इन्फॉर्मेटिक्स में क्या काम किया, आपने जो है क्राइम सीन 3D फोटोग्राफी में rather scanning of the or mapping and capturing as a whole, एंड उसको कहीं ना कहीं हम लोग ये भी समझना चाहेंगे कि कैसे जो है क्राइम सीन कैन बी रिक्रिएटेड, कैसे जो है ना इट कैन बी कन्वर्टेड इनटू द कैप्चरिंग, एंड कहीं बीच में जो है ना हमारे बीच में दिमाग हमारी प्रॉमिस है अपनी पुलिस को कि हम उसे 90% जो है ना डीबर्डन करेंगे। 90% इज अ बिग नंबर, और ये 90% बर्डन जो है ना विल गो टू इधर टू द टेक्नोलॉजी और टू द पब्लिक। और कानून ने पब्लिक को पुलिस से सुपीरियर बनाया है। चूंकि आप पुलिस से बहुत इंटरेक्ट रहे हैं तो मैं ऐसा अंदाज लगाता हूं कि आपको जानकारी होगी कि पुलिस जो कुछ भी करती है उसे कोर्ट में केवल कॉन्ट्राडिक्शन के लिए यूज किया जा सकता है, नॉट फॉर द करोबरेशन। कॉन्फेशन मेड टू द पुलिस ऑफिसर इज नॉट एडमिसिबल इन कोर्ट ऑफ लॉ। एक छोटी सी विंडो है अंडर सेक्शन 27 एविडेंस एक्ट जहां पे कि ये एडमिसिबल है, तो वेरी स्मॉल विंडो। तो यदि हम जो काम अभी पुलिस से करा रहे हैं, यदि हम उसी क्रेडिबिलिटी से, बल्कि ज्यादा क्रेडिबिलिटी के साथ, डेट टाइम और लोकेशन के साथ यदि हम उसे हैशटैग कर पाएंगे तो प्रोबेबली हम कोर्ट को इनफेलिबल एविडेंस दे पाएंगे, और फिर हम कोर्ट का ट्रायल प्रोसेस को भी रीडिफाइन करके 3.18 करोड़ केसेस को कैसे 2 साल में डिसॉल्व करें, और ये मॉडल हम कैसे 3 महीने के अंदर एज ए पायलट प्रोजेक्ट पब्लिक को जो है ना सौंप पाए। सो हाथ कंगन को आरसी क्या, लेट्स नॉट स्पीक थिंग्स इन वर्ड्स, लेट्स प्रूव इट बाय डूइंग इट। तो इस बैकग्राउंड के साथ मैं चाहूंगा कि आप अपना एक बहुत ही विस्तृत इत्मीनान के साथ लंबा परिचय दें।
ओके, धन्यवाद सर, आपने मेरे को मौका दिया। मैं कोशिश करूंगा मैं हिंदी में बोल पाऊं, but because of the flow it might go into English.
Don't worry, you speak whatever way you are comfortable.
Okay, thanks for giving me this opportunity to talk to the senior guys like you, those have served the police for years together and know the Indian system deep down till the roots. So I start explaining myself. So I have done my bachelor's in medical sciences, and then I got fascinated by forensic science because I belong to a family where everybody was in police or in the forensic department. So I started my master's, and immediately after my master's, I started working as an assistant professor in a university in India. But it took just 6 months for me to analyze that just reading and teaching students on books doesn't make forensic experts. They'll not be able to contribute on the ground till the time they have actual practical experience on the field. I quit that job and I joined to refine myself with Dr. Dahiya, who was well-known investigator across, and he was among the first PhDs in India in Sagar. So I joined Directorate of Forensic Sciences, Gujarat, which was known to be the premier institute those days in 2009-10. I started my doctorate, and in between I started getting fellowships from FBI as well as I got from Interpol. So my PhD was converted with a fellowship from FBI as well as Interpol collaboration. So we were working on geolocation of animals, where we were trying to find out the non-invasive methods to trace the evidences. Suppose, like, basically, if you take example, if a lion from Gir is getting killed and another lion from China gets killed, the environment which they eat, like they drink different water, they stay in a different land. So the biological component, the interaction of the nature with the animal in terms of surface absorption of metals, in terms of water and all, it changes. And this contributes to the lower level up to the hairs. And we were trying to collaborate that how we can find out these things by the cheapest solution, because doing a DNA analysis of a lion is way more costly than actually examining just hair and doing a non-destructive technology. So our focus was to have a technology which can be used by any forensic laboratory across India, which will have less cost, so that it will not add burden to the people. Because at the end, when we work and we stay in India, we know that the most of the money which comes from taxes, So indirectly, when we are using costly technologies in investigation, we are burdening our people with the tax, which can be utilized for other purposes. So we try to find the ways how we can narrow down the investigation where the investigation is precise, it is very accurate, but cost effective, and it can reach to the masses, where even on regional forensic laboratories it should be able to reach. So that was the focus. And then post that, during that time, I was offered a position in Central University of Chhattisgarh. But then I realized that I am not yet, very effective to communicate and to do the practical experience with the students. And I just, have to turn out that offer. And then later on, I joined Ministry of IT and Communications, because Aadhaar was core at that time, and my team was working with identification of things on the pattern analysis in terms of hairs, and then slowly we move it to fingerprints as well. And from the Honorable Prime Minister's office, we got instruction that I have to work on a different aspect. And then I moved to Ministry of IT and Communications and headed investigation of Aadhaar project, where Aadhaar itself is, like we can say, world's largest human database, and where the responses were supposed to be very quick. And I started working on Aadhaar on the days when it was just to prove identity. Later on, it came to PDMS, schemes for education, scholarship disbursement, employee attendance. So it got integrated in the whole system. And this point, when I was working with this, it started getting me more interested in the databases, into intelligence, where who is taking money from which bank at what time, who is getting this. So I started getting a information clubbed with, one thing is proving identity, and second was at what geolocation he is doing. So it took little more interest that how, if we implement this technology not only for this purpose, but to trace people, but to find people, those poses risk to our societies. Basically, like if there is a person who is out on parole and who has a history of riots, and he has a history of violence, and we are hosting a big ceremony where the political or regional or any kind of movement is there, we know these kind of people can be used to cause trouble in the public. But if we know that, okay, this person is using this particular mobile phone and he's approaching to this area, we can curb him well before, so that he will not be able to cause any harm to those things. And this way it allows us to curb and control the crime before it happens. We know there are 3 persons or 5 persons, those are rape offenders, and we know they move around in the evening on these roads. So we know that where to curb them. So I started getting interest into geolocation, and then I had interaction with Interpol innovation team, and we conducted Interpol workshops for Africa, Asia, Middle East, and specifically where I have trained was Singapore police, Thailand police, Korea in Asian region, whereas Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and all other Qatar, Saudi Arabia police departments for Middle East, and then moved to training to African police as well, where I have interacted with Kenya, Uganda, and all these police departments, where we were working on identifying the threats across borders, where we can use geolocation in locating the people who can pose threat to the society. Though it was on a very big criminals, but when we take it to a lower level, when we want to implement in the vision which you have for Digital Chitragupt, basically we can take this big model to a street level, where we can even find out what are the pickpockets who board on a particular train, and where and all with they contracted. So logically, that broad model which was for a specific people can be narrowed down with artificial intelligence, with behavioral analysis, their body language analysis, and we can move out. And this thing, when I was doing all these things, I got exposed to another thing with my colleagues with the FBI, and along with other different Europol and GCC Pol, and we identified that this is not only the thing which can locate us. We need to go deep down into this field to understand the behavioral language, to understand the body expressions, because 10 guys standing on an airport, all 10 might not be criminals, but their body gesture will different. So to identify them in the crowded areas like bus stops, like railway stations, in all those things, and in mass gatherings, so I moved back and did a degree again back in body language specialization, so that I can understand people by their body language. And then slowly got exposed to a different level, where I started with forensic and reached to a level where we were working out on identifying the threats. So started from investigating forensics Now, after 8 years spending in the field from 2010 to 18, I was in a field where I was into preventive forensics, because now the vision was make sure that people don't commit crime. They should be held before someone is getting victimized by them and somebody is victim. So let's control it well before. And that added another level where we started working on protective forensics. And my first assignment was to work with African country called Ivory Coast, and we were working on how we can have assistance and how we guide them on counterterrorism activities. And this got me a good opportunity to work with Israel Secret Services, Mossad guys. They are back. I got trained with them for identifying and neutralizing the counter-terrorist attacks and operations and active shooter incidents. Because when we today go on a crime scene as a forensic expert, as a first responder, when we talk about a forensic expert gets a first call that there is a blast, we rush to the site, but we are trained only for the evidence collection. We are not prepared that there is another enemy who is still firing at you, so the site is not clear and our officers have to stay back. But it was an idea to make them self-sufficient, because they are all police guys, so they should be able to handle that situation as well in a better aspect. And to teach somebody, like, to talk on these platforms about this, it is worth only when you know deep down and you understand that part. So my life around, like, I can say, starting from back, my school days till today, it's keep on learning. And every day I feel like, as you rightly said, the path which we feel like we are completely full and full of energy. I always believe that we are not knowing almost like even 1% of the investigation. We always have to keep our eyes open and learn from people like you in the field. So I say myself as an expert in a field, but still I say I have lot to learn, and there is a synergy. I can be expert on one particular field. I can identify probably a fingerprint better. But the question is, you have a knowledge where you can identify a bullet better than me. You can do a bullet trajectory or blood spatter analysis much better than what I can do. And we cannot bring copy you or we can copy me in that situation. So we have to have a artificial intelligence based digital kind of system, a machine where you train the machine how to deal with your cases, where I train how to deal with these cases. And at the end, when the person who is known only to analytics, he doesn't have to learn things. He will get all the information which is fed by you, which is trained by me. All together he gets a solution, and it's as easy. So the solution, like what you said rightly, like we are talking now on a YouTube, or we are talking on a virtual reality platforms, we are face to face talking in video calls. This is made possible, and we just need to know what button to press. We need not to know which server communicates with which, how it is getting encrypted and all those things. Let the people, those are in the field, do this job, and we as a end provide a complete solution. We don't want the police officer doesn't have to investigate, keep on running behind the evidences, where to collect, how to collect, keep on checking who checked into what hotel at what time, and doing a chain of custody and doing chain of events. No, let a technology which we are building, which you have a vision to build, let the technology work for mankind, and let this officer say, okay, I want to find out the track of this person in last 10 days. One click, I have all this information where I have gone wrong, where the officer can take decision rather than running behind. And now what I see in few courts where I presented in India for testimonies, the moment you say, okay, I don't have this information where he was yesterday night, and the court straight says, okay, let's take another hearing, and you go back to find the information. It takes days together. But when we have a vision, which you have a digital thing, straight away in court itself we can say, okay, give us like 2 minutes and all the detail is available with you. Now this is all hit sequence, and that will help out in speeding the process. It will help us out in curbing the crime before it starts, because every criminal doesn't do murder right away. There are stages when a people start stealing small things, then he goes to reach to a bank robbery. A criminal has to pass few stages, and his fear he gets on moving off. So this new vision which you got, or the way to curb the crime with this Gupta thing, what we will be able to do is, we will be able to curb those criminals at very first stage, so that they never reach to a level where it impacts the mankind. So it will be a basic thing with me. And now I'm involved, basically now I work for a Swiss organization called Leica Geosystems. So I work towards the geolocation and 3D documentation of the crime scenes in terms of capturing and curbing them. And this technology, which I say like came back on the to the world in 2006, when the first time a scanner was used in US. In 2010, it came to India in DFS. I started using the technology like how we can reconstruct the crime scene. We need to see. And I was looking for a thing like when you have accident, road accident in somewhere in a street of Bhopal, people move the evidences right away. And when a senior officer who is a real investigator goes to the actual crime site, the police guys have already moved everything out, and now he cannot calculate, he cannot identify the evidences. And if the case goes longer by longer, like 2 years, 3 years, this officer forgets what are the situation. And when the investigation is given to second agency like CBI, NIA, or something like that, we have nothing in hand, and we have to start from zero, where you don't have right evidences, you don't have right measurements, you don't have right capture of the temperatures and everything on the crime site. You lose everything, and you have to work for years together to solve that crime. So I was working on like how to preserve this situation, because body you can preserve in a fridge for 5 days, but how to preserve a road accident where it is about to rain, weather, fog. And India got very extreme things in terms of temperatures when we talk about, because you never know, it might rain anytime. We have extensive temperatures, we have cold. So to preserve that thing, which can be utilized. And one interesting thing which I would like to share was I was working on a case in California Highway Patrol. I believe someone's mic was on. Okay. So California Highway Patrol, what it was, a vehicle was running on a speed, it took a turn and the vehicle lost the control and it had an accident. Now we were investigating the case, and after 3 months of analysis, we identified that this is not this person's fault. This was the road authority who made a wrong curvature, wrong angle on the road, which made this particular vehicle to lose the control. So the problem, the person who was culprit was not the guy who was driving the vehicle, but the person who made that road. And in India, we know that there are roads, those are made with different angles, where we don't know which vehicle will lose the control. Is the person who is driving the vehicle is on fault? No, we have installed barriers right in front of a turn. We have installed a very big hoarding of a political party or coaching institute, which doesn't allow this person to see the right view of the road. And to understand that part, I have to capture that in 3D, so that in 3D I can capture, I can be on his position and see what he can see, what he cannot see. And this led me to put more efforts into this technology. And then I was trained with the Canadian police guys and York Regional Police guys. And then I became official trainer for this technology in 2017. And now I train almost 70 countries across the globe. Those are trained by me, and my subordinates, those are my juniors and my students. Those are training now across the globe. But Dubai Police, Abu Dhabi Police, Kenya, Uganda, Mozambique, and in India, a few police departments, including the Prime Minister's team. So I personally, get involved into those cases where there is a big major things like Lebanon blast or Ivory Coast fire case, which happened in December last year into Uganda. So I try to get myself involved in the cases where it is very critical, and when UN or any other international organization want me to look into the cases. And in general time, I train police officers how to solve the crime, how to capture them in 3D, and if the same kind of vehicles are getting accidents on a particular road, how to overlay all these crime scenes together one over each other to identify how we can stop this crime happening on the next time. When next time it rains at a speed of 60, vehicle makes accident. So putting down a barrier of the road speeds, putting down things so that we don't commit the crime. So it moved to a preventive crimes. And now I just hand over it to you, because it's, I believe, a good enough introduction about me, where I work and how the organization works.